Several months ago, I had 8 chainsaws, and I just went through the shop and took count, and I'm up to 23. It's nuts. But I love chainsaws, and I always have. And when you start looking for deals, at least for me, and you start finding, and I got to the point where it didn't matter if they were free or pennies on the dollar. I just had to stop because I'm running out of room. So I've got that's a good problem to have. But I'm literally running out of room to the point where I can't get work done in the shop, and that's not good for me because when it starts affecting my ability to get work done in the shop, we've got a problem. So anyway, I put my chainsaw addiction on hold until after the first of the year. It's October now, so cross my fingers. Hopefully I can make it. And anyway, I'm going to run you through the chainsaws that are new to the collection today. Some pretty cool ones. And I'm going to talk about some of the other ones that I had issues with and what I've done to rectify them or kind of where I'm at with them. So let's get to it. Saw number 1 up on the bench. Wouldn't you know it? It's a Homelite XL-12, one of my favorite chainsaws. To be honest with you, I don't know that I could ever have too many of these chainsaws. This particular saw I got in a 3 for $35 deal. It was 3 chainsaws for $35. This was power head only. It did not come with this bar and chain. This is a 24-inch bar I had laying around. I had it in the wood briefly, but I didn't have a chance to tune the carb. So I'm curious to see how this thing will pull. I don't know that I'm going to need a carb kit. It was too late at night and I couldn't see the adjustment screws, so I kind of bailed on it in the wood, but it sounded good. The saw itself is in pretty good shape, really. These XL-12s, this saw in particular, as is the case with most of the saws I pick up, it was in sad shape, pretty bad shape all around. It was covered in just about every kind of grime you could possibly imagine. The cover, you can see there's a piece broken off on the side here. That's kind of typical with these plastic covers on these Homelites. The metal cover is obviously faring a little bit better, so no big deal. But there was a bunch of paint that had spilled on the top of this cover, and so I cleaned that off, and it didn't really come all the way off, so I just shot it real quick with a rattle can, flat black paint. So just looks a little bit better. But these XL-12s, when you get them cleaned up, they really, I love the patina on them. You know, that's just part of the vintage look for me. I'll turn it around so you can see the other side. And it's pretty much, it likes to teeter-totter with that big 24-inch bar on there. But it's pretty much same condition on this side. Oiler works. I've got no issues with the oiler. It's not marking its spot like a lot of these chainsaws do, so that's good too. Compression's good. Filter was in decent shape, came with a nice set of dogs, which I'm always complaining about. A lot of these saws don't come with dogs on them, so that was a bonus for me as well. So anyway, curious to see how this thing will do once I get the carb tuned and get it in the wood. So look for this one in an upcoming video. Next up on the bench, saw number 2 in the 3 for $35 is another Homelite 150 automatic. This is my first top handle saw. To be honest with you, it's a saw I never really thought I would have in my collection. And I don't mean to offend any of those out there that have this saw, but it's kind of an odd looking saw. But it's a Homelite, and I love Homelites, so I'm keeping an open mind. I will tell you that this thing has crazy compression. For a saw this small, I was just shocked by the compression that this thing has. So I'm kind of excited for that reason to actually start work on this. It needs a carb kit bad. It'll pop off, but it will barely idle, and it definitely won't run. It's got issues. The ignition switch here is you can see remnants of duct tape on here, so I'm sure at some point they had duct taped this, but to get it to start, you have to hold this down because it'll kill itself right out of the gate. So I've got to pay some attention to that. The choke lever is, as you can see, messed up. I think it works, but something's bent inside there, so I need to take a look at that. But it's missing a fair amount of paint, but I don't care about that because that's the part of these saws I love, besides how they run, is the patina on them. So I'm actually kind of excited to get this thing up and running and see what it'll do, and get it in the wood, and who knows, maybe this starts me down the path of collecting these odd looking little saws. But anyway, let's get on to the next saw. Saw number 3 in the 3 for $35 deal is a Pioneer farm saw. From the pictures, I could not even tell this was a Pioneer farm saw. It wasn't until I got up there that I was able to tell what kind of saw it was. When I saw, I was extremely excited. However, this thing was just in horrible shape. It was in parts. The sprocket cover was off. The nuts on here were missing. The air filter cover was in a box somewhere. It was missing the bolt up on top, and the air filter was semi-attached. And like I said, the thing was just covered in grime, just covered everywhere. And it was not a pretty sight, but I knew of the farm saw, so I thought, well, we'll see what we got. This bar obviously did not come on it. That's a bar I put on there. But anyway, I got it home and I pulled, let me flip this around. I pulled the starter rope, and when I pulled the starter rope, my excitement quickly dissipated and disappointment took over, because I felt what I thought was zero compression. So I thought, well, this is another piston and cylinder. That's a bummer. Anyway, I was watching a YouTube video and I was watching a guy run one of these, and he mentioned in his video that from the factory, they come with an internal decomp. I rewound the video, played it again, and I said, oh, I heard that correctly. It was late at night, so next morning, I quickly ran out, cleaned this thing up, put it all back together, put some fuel in it, and this thing fired right up. Runs great. Absolutely no issues with it whatsoever, which is what prompted me to go get this 28-inch bar. When money is available, I will get a chain on it and I will make a video on it. But super excited to have this in the collection. This is, with the exception of my McCulloch 250, I think this is the biggest saw I have in my collection. This is right around, I think it's 67 cc's. So this is a good size saw. I may look at putting a full wrap on this one of these days, because these things look pretty cool with a full wrap. And then I've got to get some dogs for it as well. A lot of these saws I get just don't have dogs on them, which is kind of frustrating. But, you know, when you look at what I'm getting it for, I guess I can't really complain. Anyway, that's saw number 3 in the 3 for $35. Something else I picked up in the 3 for $35 deal. Sears Craftsman chainsaw oil. Kind of has the old pop top, like the Coke and Pepsi cans back in the 70s and 80s. If I had to guess, I'd say that's probably right in that era, 70s or 80s. Kind of cool. So I guess it's more like a 5 for $35 deal then. Boy, this deal gets better every day. Anyway, doubt I'll ever use it, but I'll throw it up on the shelf for display or something like that. Stihl 028 AV Super. Solid firewood chainsaw. I picked this one up, as I do with all my saws. Steal the deal. This was actually advertised by the guy as a mechanic special. He said he tried to get it running. He said his son tried to get it running, and they just couldn't. It was not in great shape. I've cleaned it up a lot. It did not look near this good when I got it. actually, when I went down to go take a look at it, the choke lever, it's reversed. So I was having a hard time starting it, so I almost didn't even buy this thing. But I was trying to choke it, and I was basically killing it before I could even get it started. So that was one thing I discovered. And then the breather tube for the fuel tank was missing. So I can get it to pop off, and it'll idle, kind of. As soon as you pull the trigger, it'll die, or shortly thereafter. So I'm hoping it's just a carb issue. I'm hoping that's it. But the saw itself's in great shape. It's got a decent set of dogs on it. There's really not too much wrong with it other than just getting it up and running. So I'm hoping I can, like I said, just throw a carb kit in it, and we'll be good to go. But it'd be a great saw. These 028 AV Supers are, from what I read, are pretty decent firewood chainsaws. So it's my problem child though. So we'll see what we can do with that. Happy to have it though. Next saw up on the bench, Echo 650 EVL. This is one of their bigger saws back in the day. 65 cc's. I mean, it's a big power head, no doubt about it. I picked this up from a guy that was, he was living out of a camper on the back of his pickup, and he put it up. I'm not even going to tell you what I picked it up for. I actually thought it was a misprint and possibly a con. It was so cheap. But I ran out there, guy met me, and it looked pretty much exactly how as you see it here. I haven't really done much to it. He said to me that this was just too big of a saw for him to store in the back of his camper, and he was looking to get something where he didn't have to store the saw and the fuel, etc., etc. He was actually looking to get something electric. So I gave him what he asked, and I ran. He told me a little bit of story about it though. He said this was a one owner saw. He had it for about a month, never had it in the wood, and you know, he just fired it up, ran it a couple times, and then, like I said, he got tired of lugging it around and stepping over it. So I was happy to take it off his hands. These old Echoes, this is a second Echo I have in my collection. They just, I don't know what Echo did back in the day, but they just, you clean them up and they almost look like a brand new saw. Just good looking saws. From what I've read, I'll flip it around so you can see the other side. They're a little bit underpowered for their displacement, 65 cc's. So I probably won't go any bigger than, I think that's a 23-inch bar, but that's one of those bars that you can't flip. So I'll probably swap that bar out, but I doubt I'll go bigger than that. But another Echo, happy to have it. Thing runs great. I brought it home, and he didn't have any fuel in it. Told me it ran. I was a little bit skeptical, like I said, but I came home, I put fuel in it, and the thing popped right off. I mean, literally. Which, you know, that's typical of these old Echoes, too. That's another thing. I mean, unlike some of the other saws in my collection, you just pull the choke, and usually on the first pull on the starter rope, she'll fire. Just something with these Echoes. I don't know what it is. So, anyway, happy to have it. Second Echo in my collection, and yeah, just got to get a new bar and chain for it. Look for that in an upcoming video. Next saw up on the bench, another McCulloch 1010, the mighty 1010. Happy to have this in the lineup. This saw's a runner. No issues with this saw whatsoever. It's in pretty good shape for a 1010. A lot of these 1010s just get used and abused, and this one's actually not in bad shape for a 1010, like I said. Original bar and chain, I think that's a 18-inch bar. Probably swap that out for at least a 24, maybe a 28. It does need an air filter and does need a carb kit, but I brought it home and took a look at it. No fuel in the tank, filled it up, And within about 7-8 pulls, I was pulling fuel, and I think after about 10 or 12 pulls, it popped off for me. It'll idle, but it runs rough. Definitely needs a carb kit. Need to get a set of dogs. It seems to be my story these days. Every one of these saws I pick up does not come with dogs. So that I need to figure out. But for a 1010, it's in pretty good shape. 54 cc's, these things run like a 60 plus cc saw all day long. So if you ever get a chance to pick one of these up, do. Just solid firewood chainsaws right here. Happy to have it. This is a Stihl 024 AV Super. Really, it's a pile of junk. Absolute pile of junk. Why is it hanging in my shop, you ask? The guy had it advertised on Craigslist for 50 bucks. And if you can see, if I can get you in close enough, right under Stihl, it says West Germany. If you ever see a Stihl chainsaw that is made in West Germany, pause. I don't care what kind of condition it's in, and take a look at what they're asking for it. That's what I did. I went down to take a look at it, and after looking at it, I told the guy, yeah, not interested. And he goes, well, what would you offer me for it? And I said, you don't want to know. And he goes, no, tell me. And I go, nothing. I said, the thing is just, it's falling apart everywhere, and it is, literally. All the anti-vibe, and et cetera, it's the whole thing's falling apart. So he said, well, he goes, well, how much money do you have on you? And I happen to have $3 in my wallet. I go, I got $3. He goes, I'll take it. Reluctantly, I gave him $3 because it's really not even worth that. But, you know, he was so happy to have the $3. I obliged, and now I've got a decoration in my shop. One of these days, maybe I get another 024 Super, and maybe I'll have a part saw if the piston and cylinder are still good. And that's the draw to these saws. Being made in West Germany, they're just some of the best saws Stihl has ever made when they're not neglected like this one. So anyway, right now it's decoration. I'm a Stihl fan, so I don't know, maybe I hang some Christmas lights on it when December rolls around, and yeah. Last but certainly not least, McCulloch EM250 electric chainsaw, 14-inch bar. It sounds crazy, but I was super excited when I saw this saw. I own a hauling and junk removal business, so a lot of these saws I pick up either for free, or when I'm there, I just ask the people, hey, you know, what kind of a deal would you swing me on your chainsaws? So that's how I pick up a lot of these saws. This one I got for free. I have never in my life held, ran, or seen an electric chainsaw, so I was pretty excited, even though I knew this wasn't anything I was going to seriously use and run, but I was pretty excited to get home and try it. My thoughts on the saw: they're a lot louder, at least this one, a lot louder than I thought an electric chainsaw would be. I sharpened the chain before I went out and put it in the wood, and the first piece of wood I put it in was, I don't know, probably 21 inches or more in diameter, and it held its own. I wouldn't say it was great, but it held its own. But I felt like if I kept going too much longer, I'd probably burn up the 2.5 horse motor that was in there. Here's your bar oil, and it runs like a regular chainsaw, tensions like a regular chainsaw. It's got a functioning chain brake that works. To be honest with you, I don't think this thing has a whole lot of hours on it. So will I ever use it again? Probably not. Maybe just as a novelty item. I don't know why I would use it when I got Mini Max and I've got an 020, a Stihl 020. But I can see the value in a saw like this for a typical homeowner. Oops. as or if for a typical homeowner needing to cut down just some limbs on some trees, basically being an arborist. I wouldn't think this would be really good for anything bigger than 4, maybe 6 inches. It's got a plastic set of dogs though. Anyway, to be honest with you, I'm happy to have it in the collection because I can say I at least have one electronic chainsaw, and it's made by McCulloch. I mean, if I'm gonna have an electric chainsaw, I might as well have one made by McCulloch. So anyway, those are the new chainsaws. I've just got them everywhere, like I said, because I'm running out of room. Just running out of room. So I've got to do something. Oh, I was going to update you on this one. That's my Homelite 360. You can see on the front, I put a set of dogs. I had, if you remember my other video, that I was having some starter issues. I took the starter off and apart, and I found a galvanized nail wedged underneath. So this was not seized. It was just a galvanized nail that was stuck down in there. I think the magneto just drew it in, and then it was just preventing you from pulling the cord. But this thing needs a carb kit, and it runs at about 30,000 RPM as soon as you pop it off. So I've got to get that figured out. But that's another great saw that I'm going to look at in the future. So anyway, thanks for joining me on craziness in my shop. It's out of control. Absolutely out of control, but I put a stop to it for now. Thanks for joining me, and look for some upcoming videos here in the next 2-3 days or so. I'll talk to you.